Good evening. Welcome to tonight's June 9th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Education. I'm Kathy Ward, the board chair. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01. When I call your name, members, would you please, oh, I didn't bring the book. Oh, just let me know if you're here. Jeanette Picard.
I am here.
April Morin.
I'm here.
Kelly Zimmerman. Susanna Everett. Martha Kelly.
I'm here.
Edith Allison.
Present.
Dave Latrico. Okay, thank you. So, good evening, everyone. This is one of our most enjoyable meetings of the year because we get to recognize, celebrate members of our school community. Our first recognition is for two of our 8th grade students who are the recipients of the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education Scholar Leader Award. This award is presented annually to students who demonstrate a concern for others, a willingness to take on challenges, the ability to honor a commitment, as well as exhibit exemplary leadership skills. So now I would like to invite Larry Barlow, Mansfield Middle School Assistant Principal, to introduce our two CABE Scholar Leader Award recipients.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. So first, I'd like to honor Adam Susi, CABE 2022 recipient. The 8th grade teachers are proud to announce Adam Susi as this year's CABE Award recipient. In his attendance at MMS, Adam has served as a positive role model for his peers. Not only is Adam superb academically and well-rounded extracurricularly, but he's also demonstrated exemplary character that truly reflects Mansfield's core values. Adam willingly works with a wide variety of peers and treats everyone with whom he interacts with the utmost respect. As academically skilled as he is, Adam does not just want to do well for praise or recognition. He values hard work and self-growth and believes that others have something to offer and teach him. Adam recognizes this value in himself as he reflects on his time at Mansfield Middle School. He says that what he has learned the most during his time at MMS is the importance of organizing his life in and out of the classroom and taking control over it. Adam is involved in a variety of activities, both within and beyond school. He enjoys athletics and plans to play baseball and basketball in high school. Not only does Adam's qualities shine through in the classroom, but also on the court. Coach O'Donnell has nothing but high praise for Adam and his role on the basketball team when he says, Adam's leadership came from the example he set. He did every push-up, every drill, every sprint with 100% effort. He followed the directions of the coaches, but also offered thoughtful suggestions and feedback to them when he felt it would benefit the team. He treated every teammate with respect and was always ready to support the player having an off game or a tough practice. Adam helped to set the tone of hard work and selflessness that will benefit the Mansfield Middle School basketball program for years to come. Not only is Adam a good leader, but he's also a great listener, and his disposition makes everyone around him feel welcome and safe. Adam has truly grown over his years at MMS, and his teachers wholeheartedly agree that Adam's efforts and achievements are worthy of recognition. Adam, congratulations on your recognition as the 2021-2022 Connecticut Association Boards of Education Award recipient. Adam, come on up. Thank you, Adam. Congratulations. Oh, yeah. Photo op. All right, we are fortunate we have two award recipients for this award. Kalyani Tahaya is recognized as this year's CABE Award recipient. Kalyani will blow you away with her positive energy and incredible work ethic. She's one of those students who does it all and does it all really well. In her career at MMS, Kalyani has developed strong leadership skills and now serves as a model for her peers. From attending to the CAST Leadership Conference in her 5th and 6th grade years to serving as a student council president this year, from qualifying for State History Day all 3 years to competing at the National History Day in her 8th grade year, from watching her older brother buzz in answers when she was in 4th grade to landing the role as captain to the Science Bowl team in 7th and 8th grades. Her consistent dedication and commitment to do her best is something that is noticed in all that she is involved in. Kalyani is a strong athlete. She gives it all on basketball, track, and the swim team. As a teammate, she rallies her friends and keeps them focused on the task at hand. Kalyani notes that many of the highlights of her middle school memories include moments with her teammates and friends as they work together towards a shared goal. One of these goals is to address the climate crisis head-on. Twice, Kalyani has directed considerable energy towards organizing Earth Week events at MMS through the Changemakers Club. Her passion has led her to speak out at school-wide assemblies and to rally for statewide change at the Capitol. Kalyani hopes to continue to make change at the high school level, where she plans to run for class officer all 4 years. Kalyani's story would not be complete without mentioning her love for performing. She's an active member of the band, chorus, and chamber choir. This year, she adds cast members of The Lion King Jr. to this list. Kalyani, our community is a richer place as a result of your generous spirit. Your selection to the 2021-2022 Connecticut Association Boards of Education is well deserved. Congratulations. Congratulations.
So Adam and Kalyani, on behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to congratulate you and your families. We're all very proud of your accomplishments and wish you the very best in the future. Thank you.
So now on to the next part of our program this evening of recognition and celebration. We are now going to recognize retirees, those people who have been with the Mansfield Public Schools, most of them for some years, who have reached the point of likely a long-awaited opportunity to relax and rest and maybe do some different things in the future. I know how y'all feel this year. I only get one time to say that. I am going to let the principals and supervisors of these very special people say a few words about each of our retirees. We have a total of 14 people this evening retiring from the Mansfield Public Schools. And while we always mourn their loss and recognize that we are losing a piece of us as each of them goes, we wish them all the best. I'm going to start with Alan Corson, who has 3 retirees to recognize this evening.
Hi, good evening. I represent the Facilities Department, which has responsibilities for custodial and maintenance for the town of Mansfield. In my department, I have 3 people that are retiring this year. But tonight I want to discuss the 3 of my staff members that are retiring. Their combined years of service totals over 73 years of service. Each one has contributed many years of service to the town of Mansfield and Board of Education. Bob, my maintainer, or Robert Lee, served as a maintainer for 25 years. Bob's tasks over the years have included, but certainly not limited to, small engine repair, custodial equipment repair, and numerous painting jobs. Bob helped with custodial supplies, both storing and delivering supplies to schools and town buildings. Bob also has done a lot of work with gardening around the school buildings, and he usually had all the schools looking pristine for school opening each year. Bob had been one of the maintainers to fill in for custodial absences. Bob always took pride in his areas with his organization skills. His list of accomplishments are extensive, and we have all benefited from his help and many implemented ideas through his years at Mansfield. Joe, he's one of the 2 custodians that I have retiring, and Joe Polana. One of my 2 custodians retiring, he has served as custodian for 24 years. Joe had worked at the middle school many years as night custodian at Goodwin School, and more recently as the head custodian of Vinton School. Mike, my other custodian, retiring, has served the town for 24 years also. He spent most of his time at the middle school, but Mike also worked here at the town hall as a second shift custodian for a few years. Each of my custodians had some uniqueness about them. Joe was always there during lunch time handing out silverware to the children. Mike was a can-do person and helped anyone who asked. Something you may not know about my custodians, and this is where I give you a little comparative math with them, but the custodians during their time of service have cleaned more windows than the Empire State Building. If you wonder how many windows that is, it's 6,514. They've cleaned enough floor tile to be able to make it around the earth at least once. And most of my custodians walk 7 miles in their shifts. They clean anywhere from 18,000 to 25,000 square feet in an 8-hour shift. This is the equivalent of cleaning 9 or 10 medium-sized homes every night. So I want to thank all 3 of these individuals for the years of service. These 3 individuals were very reliable and dependable, and in a drop of a hat, if we needed help, they would be there. I would like to point out all their extra contributions, especially in these last few years with COVID. None of us could have imagined all the extra efforts they had to put in for the benefit and health of our staff, children, and families that visit our buildings. We wish them all the best and a happy retirement. And then that brings me to Mr. Peter Dart, new superintendent and the principal of Goodwin School.
Thank you, and good evening. It is an honor on behalf of the Goodwin Elementary School community to raise up and celebrate 2 beloved educators and staff members. I first want to talk about Anita Cronin. She was a para-educator in our pre-K classroom. She was with us for 6 years, and I'm delighted that Heather Lasky is here. She's a pre-K teacher that worked with Anita, and we would both agree that Anita is an amazing person, caregiver. Family was important, faith, but she was the person who came in early, stayed late, always went above and beyond. She was the rock, and our kids and our families were always ever so grateful for her patience and her love and the attention to detail. She would often come to me and just tell me these great kid stories. She's in South Carolina, so we're going to have to clap pretty loud for her to hear. For some reason, she didn't want to come up here, but please join me in celebrating Anita. So this is hard for me because Judy Quinn, our reading coach and interventionist, has been a person who I think I've had more opportunities to talk to through my tenure at Goodwin. And I've grown to know her professionally, but also personally, I got a sense of her lifelong passion for learning, adventure. I know that she's a kayaker, and her eyes are on a trip to Italy and learning the language. But Judy's love of Mansfield over her tenure here started, there's a little clip of a letter that she had in her file when she applied in June of 2006. And she was reflecting on her visit to Mansfield, and she was wowed by our kids, our staff, and the sense of community. And as I read that, I was like, this is so Judy. She could have written this today. And you know what, Judy? You made that happen. You made Mansfield that kind of place through your service over time. And as we go to the next slide, we see that we not only celebrate just the time in Mansfield, but 38 years of public service. We know that our educators are called into service, and Judy has spent many years studying and perfecting her craft. She loves to learn. She loves to talk about that, but she is the kind of teacher who will send me a video of a kid reading. 2 days ago, she sent me a kid, and she's the kind of person who would bring a student down to my office who had just broken the code and was able to start to read. She celebrated those moments. And during the pandemic, she delivered pizzas. She Zoomed from porches, and she personally brought students and families into our school who were feeling nervous, not very safe, but she was the conduit for those families to feel good about not only the service she was providing, but what we do here in Mansfield. So please join me in celebrating and congratulating Judy Quinn. Judy.
I wrote like a story of my life. If you're willing to sit back and listen. 37 years ago, I stepped through the doorway and into my first classroom, and there was a colleague, Ms. Carroll, who instructed me as to how to wash a chalk water every. And then he gave me this device where you put five pieces of chalk. You could draw really straight. Like, I made it. Yes, this is great. Well, then I was dumbfounded. I saw my retirement paperwork from the state, and it had the date 20. I didn't even know how to say that. Like, how do you say 23? It was 1980. Watching those movies. So we'll fast forward through my career and development of technology. Those chalkboards were replaced by whiteboards. I earned my master's degree as a reading consultant, stepped out of the classroom and into the role of a reading interventionist. Loved it. I volunteered for every opportunity. Then those computers were introduced to schools, and I earned my 6-year. I began writing curriculum, introducing assessments, and intervention. I was fortunate in a reading. Board of Ed invited all new hires to a meeting like this to introduce us. And I was impressed by this act, as I'm impressed by much experience. I remember standing up, introduced, and commenting on for Goodwin that says, "Through these doors, enter the world." Well, I told the board and the audience that night, I felt it really, and it should say, "This is the way." Because I was just in so awe of all the things that Mansfield School. Then along came Smartboard, installed in all the classrooms. I continued to teach. I continually strive to learn and strengthen my talents. I believe that I'm going to cry. There's no more important job for me than to teach young children best reading. Well, then came the pandemic. I won't cry about this. Remote teaching and learning was introduced. Who knew that education, my career would evolve from chalkboards to remote teaching and learning? This district has talented, dedicated administrators, top-notch children. It's a community that believes in and supports education, and I continue to maintain the first impression of Mansfield that this is the way. We're all fortunate. And thank you all. I'll continue.
Thank you, Judy. And now please welcome my colleague, Lauren Rodriguez, principal of Southeast and Mansfield Elementary School.
Well, I'm pleased to share I have more retirements this year than I have since I've been in the district. So I share Kelly's sentiments. This is a sad moment and a joyful moment for my staff. I first wanted to talk about Diana Peltier. Diana Peltier, some of you may know, used to be a flight attendant. She has a rich, varied background before she came into Southeast Elementary School. And in her time at Southeast, she became a SWEET teacher, which is a reading intervention teacher, which Judy knows much about, working with first graders and kindergartners. From there, as a part-time position, she advanced to become a kindergarten paraeducator with Mrs. Erica Labella. They have been partnered together since 2012, and if you've ever seen a dynamic duo, that is the team. You walk in that classroom, and it is so seamless between the two of them, co-teaching every step of the way. And we were fortunate that Diana moved forward to become the 2020 Paraeducator of the Year. And in one of these photos, you see her running with a cape on. That was the Teacher of the Year that year, Sue Irvin and Diana Peltier. Diana just has a breath of spirit and light in everything that she does, loves children, and makes the job feel like it's just the most joyful thing in her life. In her time, she has also been an active member of the running club, and some of you may know the running club requires lots of different dedicated people for students who stay after school. They try to run, we've had students run 75 miles in their time in the running club. She's a huge part of that. Tonight I just want to say congratulations to Diana. She has been an advocate for all things right in education, and we'll miss her. So congratulations, Diana. Next, I'd like to talk about Katherine Davidson, 16 years at Southeast. And in her time, she began as a special education paraeducator, working one-on-one with students who had severe physical disabilities, but also working with students and partnering with classroom teachers to support instruction in the classroom. So many skills and so much time. Many people who have come back to visit Southeast whose children have benefited from her support single-handedly mention her for her work that she did with them one-on-one. She currently serves as a library paraeducator. She also was a supporter of the running club and did that for a few years. Her background also included a program called Study Island, which we used to do a few years ago as well. But the thing that I hope you all understand about Katherine Davidson is every day I walk in and we have a moment to think about how are we going to staff our building because staffing, sometimes can be a challenge. And Katherine, no questions asked, will step in like glue anywhere needed in the building, and just a humble person who is willing to do absolutely anything to help, and oftentimes very unnoticed in terms of, people don't always know the ways that she's contributing, but I do, and we'll miss her sincerely. So congratulations, Katherine, for your 16 years. Moving on, we have the opportunity tonight to talk about Ingrid Hanka, who served 11 years as the Southeast school nurse. Ingrid, as you can see here, her family, a Disney enthusiast, loves her family to pieces, and has been through some of the toughest times in schools with our COVID-19 times as being a nurse. She has been relied upon. Children adore her. The staff works closely with her, and Ingrid has been just a true joy to be working with. I wish Ingrid all the best in her future endeavors, and we miss her dearly. She's a Mansfield resident, so we look forward to seeing Ingrid around. Thank you. Now moving on to certified staff, I wanted to talk first about Becky Robichaud. Becky Robichaud, 23 years at Southeast. She started in Southeast as a paraeducator, spent 5 years in that role, went back to school, and was hired as a first grade teacher at Southeast, and has also been currently a kindergarten teacher to round out those 23 years. Becky is nominated every single year as a Teacher of the Year. She doesn't like to move forward with those kinds of recognitions, but I think it's important to recognize that Becky is a quiet leader, and she was an advocate for all the students. The families feel very close to her and know that in her guidance, their children grow tremendously. She even explored, as you could see here, one of the pictures, students have little bean bags on their bellies. One of the lessons that she was teaching when she saw a rise in anxiety in students was how to breathe deeply. So she, those stuffed animals go up and go down. She calls it rocking them to sleep. So she just has a wonderful way of being with children. And in her time, Becky is someone who enjoys things like the Sunshine Club, bringing to life what, the moments that we have in school to really celebrate each other. She's been on the LA Curriculum Council previously. She was a Character Education Committee member for many, many years, has been a valued team member on any team that she's been a part of. It's hard to imagine. Becky's classroom is still full of absolutely everything. I'm not sure she knows she's retiring, or moving, out of the building. She's so committed. Who are the first people in the building? It's Becky Robichaud. So, Becky's been tremendous, and congratulations, Becky, on your years of service. And finally, I have the opportunity to talk about Connie Zyko, and she's here tonight with her family, Joe and Maggie. So thrilled to celebrate her 15 years. She hasn't spent all of her educational years in Mansfield. She was in Wyndham prior, and so thrilled that she came over to support us. She was, most of the time had been at Southeast. She spent 1 year, I believe, at Goodwin. In her time, she has been a core person in developing students' language and communication skills, starting from students who come in with birth to 3 concerns and helping them all the way through. There's not a student who leaves Southeast School that Connie has had a hand on that she hasn't directly made an impact. She works with students in 5-minute articulation, often doesn't even need an IEP to be able to work with them because she does quick little doses of Tier 1 instruction and has changed more students than you could even imagine. They're not even on record. When people talk about Connie, we've had year after year, UConn students have come to learn from Connie. She has a reputation in the speech and language field across the state. She is valued, she's innovative, she's come up with strategies and ways to be able to support students within the classroom so that it's a seamless instruction. As I say, I would consider her a celebrity. And Connie, do you see the picture on the bottom? One of my favorite moments, and we'll talk about it after. That's a play that you did probably my first or second year at the end of the year when you had students come up. And one made us laugh tremendously. So I'll go backwards in that story with you. It's too far, yeah? Okay. Oh. It's what I wasn't saying. Yeah. That was a highlight. And then moving on, in the previous picture, every year, Connie would dress up as Mary Poppins. Just wonderful moments there. Moving on to one of the ways that I feel like I've learned from Connie. There's been many ways, but Connie has taken an active interest. Once we started going to school on Veterans Day, we went back to the staff and said, let's talk about this. How are we going to make this day special? This is a learning day now. It's no longer a vacation day for students. And Connie said, I got it. I'll take it. And every single year, every station has been different. Every learning opportunity has been different. Our kids have learned so much about uniforms, about folding flags, about all the different military branches, songs. I could go on, and I've learned too. So Connie, congratulations on 15 years of golden service to Southeast and Goodwin and Mansfield Elementary School. And I invite you to please join me. I know you have a few words tonight.
As I left school today, I realized that my LL Bean bag had probably been with me for 41 years. This is probably my 4th or 5th bag. They ask me every Christmas, do you need another LL Bean bag? So I brought it here tonight. Stories that LL Bean bag could tell. It started off in SAD 41, I think, in Newport, Maine, little town in Maine. But I didn't just go to Newport. I went to Newport, Palmyra, Heartland, Corinna, St. Albans, Nokomis High School. That was my first job, but I was so happy to have a job. I think I traveled over 80 miles a week, but I loved the job in the cornfields in rural Maine. After that, Joe and I moved to New Hampshire, and I had my first interview at Howard Johnson's during breakfast. And I got that job, and we were in New Hampshire for 2 years, and I went to 3 schools in New Hampshire. And then Joe received a job in Waterford, and we moved, and I worked at a clinic for 2 years with the former mayor of New London, and I shared her office as my therapy space. I quickly left there. And the next 20 years I spent in Wyndham. And then the last 15 years I've been here. But my bag would tell you that when I was in SAD 41, that I shared a closet with the bag. It was the book room or the supply closet, every one of those schools. In Heartland, I was in an old trailer with very minimal heat. And then when I went to New Hampshire, I was on the stage with 3 other teachers with a barrier between the 3 other teachers. That was not fun. And then I came to Wyndham. In Wyndham, I had a nice, small little room. But the Cadillac has been Southeast School. Wonderful. I have a sink. I put my hands in kids' mouth. I have a sink. I have a window. To have a window and a sink, it's just wonderful to retire. I did have a small room at Southeast, and most of it was in our basement. It's now back in our basement. For the past 4 decades, I've instructed so many young children who have become better communicators. Speech pathology is a rewarding career, as I've helped individuals with hearing loss gain access to speech. That's amazing. I've assisted individuals who stuttered to become more fluent. I've helped nonverbal children use a voice output device so people can understand what they're saying. Amazing. I've given children with severe articulation disorders, such as IOE, I go P. Help him. All he had was vowels when he came, and now he's graduated from high school. To help kids with higher level language deficits, to help children with autism. It's been remarkable coordinating with all these staffs and all these family members. Another rewarding part of my job was the connection with UConn. I think I've had over 40 student interns from UConn. I had 2 each year, one in the spring semester and one in the fall semester. And giving back to my profession was always one of my goals. They've helped me keep current with the therapies and the techniques. Most of them have helped me with my computer skills. I'll say, here, you can do that faster than I can. So there's probably over 40 that I've mentored from UConn. In addition to being a speech pathologist, I'm extremely proud of 3 or 4 other roles I played at Southeast. I truly, truly enjoyed that day. I did it for 3 years, and each year I tried to top what we were doing. The 3rd picture over, I was trying to get a Humvee, and so I called every recruiting office, and a gentleman about the 4th one said, have you ever heard of the Antique Military Vehicle Club? And I said, no. And he said, go on Facebook. So I went on Facebook, and I called every number of every committee member until somebody answered the phone. And this gentleman brought 2 vehicles, and he let the kids go in the vehicles, sit in the vehicle. It was amazing. It was phenomenal. I couldn't top that one. I also loved being a fellow for Fund for Teachers. We have a current member over here as well. Sadly, I won the fellow to go to Ghana to help students in underprivileged homes. They weren't homes, underprivileged services. They were not allowed in the public schools because they had cerebral palsy or they were in a wheelchair. I was going with a group of 14 speech pathologists to bring wheelchairs and communication devices, but COVID hit, and I couldn't go 2 years ago. I couldn't go last summer, so hopefully I'll get to go. And my other favorite activity at Southeast School, which you might find odd, is daily parent pickup duty. And I like it because I get to talk to the parents. I get to chat with the parents. Most of the volunteers and the veterans I got from parent pickup. Do you have anyone in your family who'd like to come to Veterans Day celebration? Do you have anyone that we can write letters to? That's where I did that. And now my career is kind of at the end, and I will enjoy my time golfing with Joe and supporting Maggie at Purdue University. But I wanted to show you one last thing that I think says it all. Psycho, one sound that one family gave me this. I will treasure this. Mansfield.
I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Seal, principal of Vinton's Elementary.
It's my pleasure to recognize Terry Gloud Boucher in our food services in our kitchen. And we are really going to miss Terry. There's just a sense of humor around her. I come early in the morning, and usually we're the first 2 people in the building. And Terry has this rock and roll music playing really loud in the kitchen, and you walk by, and she always says, "Hey, Mike, hey, Terry." For the last 6 years I've been at Vinton, and I've really enjoyed that. Kids love her. She is kind and warm, kind of the antithesis of that stereotypical food service worker with the hairnet, and that is just mean to kids. Terry is not that, and we will miss her. So she has worked at E.O. Smith, and she has worked at Vinton through this really tough sort of COVID situation in a kitchen, in that sort of context, has been challenging. So we will miss her, but we came in a distant third, unfortunately. So Vinton's important to Terry, but not as important as her 2 grandbabies. So we came in way third. So we'll miss her, Terry, and it was really wonderful to have her on. Congratulations, Terry. It's my pleasure to introduce Candace Morrell from the middle school.
Thank you, and good evening. This year we have 2 certified teachers retiring from the middle school. The first that I'll speak about is Carrie Holman. Carrie Holman has been in service for Mansfield Public Schools for 32 years, 21 years of that as a teacher, and 11 years as a paraeducator. And I know just from colleagues that I work with, they were so thrilled when she got that teaching credential and joined the ranks of our support service staff. She has worked as a grade level team leader for our staff. She served as a liaison and collaborator with Mansfield Youth Services, supporting not only our students, but their families. She's helped to support a grandparent club, grandparents raising their grandchildren. And in her years in our school building, she has been a leader in social emotional learning practices that support student success. whether it's taking courses in Brain Gym and sharing her knowledge and expertise, or working in developing her skill in mindfulness and sharing that work not only with teachers, but with students as well. She is one of the most giving people you'd ever have the pleasure of meeting. And we're going to move on to the next slide, Mr. Russell. You know, there's a lot we can say about Carrie, and this quote really epitomizes who she is. Some people can't believe in themselves until someone else believes in them first. And that really is the heart of the work that Carrie has always done with her students. She serves a population that not only need additional support in their learning, but also in their problem solving and processing skills. And she has been and continues to be their biggest champion. This is why she didn't come. It's the truth. She is a person that's always willing to think outside the box, to meet students where they're at. And whether they were in their classroom as a student on her caseload, or whether they were assigned, not assigned to her, but she would hear about them and what was going on, and she'd say, I need to work with that kid. And she, time and time again, went to meet and work with kids and to meet them where they're at. Something that you don't know about Carrie is when you're a Carrie kid, you're a Carrie kid for life. She has kids in their 20s, their 30s, that still come back and connect with her. She's still their biggest champion. She will go to lunch with them and talk through the challenges they might face, and she sees them through. So we're so privileged to have that level of colleague in our building. I get emotional about it because I've worked with those same kids, and it's amazing to see people who are willing to stick it through with them. Carrie is also amazingly what we call our MMS Zen leader. She is the calmest person in the building. Her training in Brain Gym, her training in mindfulness has benefited all of us. She's gracious with her time, her thoughts and ideas, and we've been so fortunate to work with her for these many years. So congratulations, Carrie. So now we'll honor and recognize Mark Jones. Mark Jones has 28 years service in education, 22 of those years at Mansfield Middle School in math and science. And I've had the pleasure of working with Mark for 21 of those years. He's been a grade level team leader, a curriculum team leader in math, a team mentor, a member of the CPM professional learning team. He's also been a presenter at National Council for Teachers of Mathematics annual event. Mark joined the middle school 1 year after I did, and I had the extreme pleasure of teaching on the same team as Mark for several years. I've always admired your deep passion for learning, particularly all things math, your strong collaboration skills, and the upbeat and positive way that you manage to engage with all of your colleagues. It's really something to be admired. Mark served on the 6th grade team. He served on the 7th grade team. He has what we call the golden certificate. It's highly coveted in middle school. It really means you can teach absolutely everything. He has had repeated razzing from myself, Jeff Cryan, former building principal, about one day he'd teach for language arts. But we never made him do that. Mark is an example of what being a lifelong learner is all about. This year, he read the book, the text, Building Thinking Math Classrooms in Mathematics by Peter Liljedahl. And after reading this text, he came to me and said, I just read this really great book. It makes sense, and I know I've only got 4 more months left, but I want to try it out. Can I buy the materials? Yes, Mark, yes, you can. But that is the classic example of Mark. Always learning, always willing to try new things, always finding ways to get his colleagues to join in, whether it was with learning and teaching and instruction, or with it was just good fun and collaboration as a team. Recently, I had a couple of kids share a quote that Mr. Jones always shares in class. If anything is challenging, giving up is not the right thing. You just need to at least try to do it. And that's really true to his philosophy in life. Mark is ever supportive and encouraging of his students and colleagues. Whether it's an X block reteaching time for students or lunch math challenges for his team members, Mark has always got a way of getting everyone engaged and seeing the beauty of math. He, beyond being a math teacher, prior to coming to us, he had a former career as a merchant marine. And we've often had opportunity for him to share those experiences. He's a huge Red Sox fan. We've often talked music. Loves to travel and enjoy the beach. But what I've appreciated most of all is his willingness to have fun with kids. And when we think about his experience, whether it's a spirit day and he's willing to color his hair, or someone has the great idea of, sliming teachers, and he jumps right in without really understanding what that means, or learning from the mistake the year before with Mr. Barlow. He's in it to win it. And we've appreciated all of that. And we are better in our middle school because of your presence with us. And he knows I don't ever let anyone retire, so we're going to find ways to stay connected. So Mark, thank you for always being a beacon of inspiration to your students and your colleagues. Enjoy time with your family, travel, and follow the music.
So, I didn't need these. Can't do it. Man, this messed me up. I'm a lucky person. For the last 22 years, I've had the honor to work at Mansfield. The middle school is a great place to grow as a student and as a teacher. Learn so much from everybody. Candace, Larry, Jeff in the past, James for a little while. They've supported and guided. Thank you. The teachers are dedicated, type A people. They bring innovative ideas, smile to work daily. The IAs have helped me implement the daily lessons. They adjust on the fly when I suddenly change course. And I thank them. The kitchen staff, contrary to what you said, it always has a friendly smile and do anything for the students and staff. They really do, and I thank them too. The custodians never complain when we disrupt their schedule for a special activity or create a complete mess with our latest. Thank them. The office staff is exceptional. They keep the school running. They're always smiling. They're always upbeat. They hardly ever tease me. I thank them too. But the 7th grade team. They're a diverse group of thinkers. They work together. Can't do it. But we truly believe that listening to each other's ideas and incorporating them in our classes ourselves, our students. I'm going to miss them. But I know that all the bonds I've made will last.
So congratulations again to all of our retirees. I would like to let you know that the Mansfield Education Association, in honor of the teachers and members of their organization, has made donations to charities of retiring teachers' choice. Among them, for Carrie Holman to the No Freeze Shelter, for Mark Jones to the Wellington chapter of Dollars for Scholars, for Judy Quinn also to the No Freeze Shelter, for Becky Robichaud to the Covenant Soup Kitchen, to Connie Zyko, the PA Hope Project, and for Pauline Hayes, who left us some months ago, to the Natural Resource Trust of Mansfield. So Thank you to the Mansfield Education Association on behalf of the retirees for those gifts. And I believe Kathy is going to close us out.
Only about a half hour, no worries. On behalf of the Mansfield Board of Education, I would like to thank all of you for your service and contribution to our Mansfield School District. Our entire community benefits from quality public schools, and without quality staff members, it wouldn't be possible. So we thank you very much for your service. Mr. Jones, wish you all the best, and go get that next chapter. And Adam and Kalyani, thank you very much for sitting through this, and congratulations again. We're very proud. We're fortunate to have you and your families in our community. Thank you. So now I would like to just take a 10-minute recess and go grab some refreshments and mingle, and please feel free. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Is my mic?
Test, test.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to break up the party, but we do have a board meeting that we have to continue with. So I'd like to thank you all very, very, very much for coming and celebrating with us. And please feel free to stay if you'd like, but don't feel obligated. Oh, there it is. All right, members, if you could return to your seats, please. I forgot to record it. Oh, I can't believe I did that. All right, our next order of business is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 19, 2022, special meeting?
I will
Thank-
move to approve.
Thank you, Susanna. Do I have a second? Thank you, April. Are there any corrections? Any objections to approving these minutes? Any abstentions? Thank you. And now a motion to approve the minutes of May 25, 2022. Thank you, Edith. Second? Thank you, Kelly. Are there any corrections? Any objections to approving these minutes? Any abstentions? Thank you. That brings us to our first hearing for visitors. Is there anyone who would like to approach the board?
Jamie? Me. Hi, Rochelle Marcus, co-president of the Mansfield Education Association, wearing my union hat.
And I am Jen Zugarazzo. I'm the new co-president for the Mansfield Education Association, and I look forward to working with you all this coming year.
So this is my end of year thank you. And if Rich were still here, he would say thank you as well, but our new co-president is with me. So we're just so grateful for everything you do every single year. We could not do any of this without such a supportive board, such an incredibly supportive superintendent. And Peter, we're looking forward to continuing that with you. But we are so lucky to be in Mansfield, all of us, teachers, parents, kids, administrators, Board of Ed members. We're so incredibly fortunate. The president of the state union, so the Connecticut Education Association, Kate Diaz, she was in all different towns. And I don't know why she was in Mansfield, but she was in Mansfield. And she was at a meeting, and she apparently said to Rich at this meeting, she's like, you gotta tell me the truth. Does Mansfield really have it all together? Or is it just like, a front? And he's like, no, we're pretty good. So, that's just a testament to everything that you do. And we're just so grateful.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Rochelle. The communications are listed in your packet. We have no additional ones. Are there any additions to the present agenda? We do not have any board reports. That brings us to information, presentations, and actions. Superintendent report.
Great, thank you very much. I do have several things to share with you this evening. It is the end of the school year, as you all know, and there's always a lot going on, a lot of celebratory things as well as some really exciting learning things. So there are just a few things that I wanted to share with you this evening. And Jamie, I forgot to bring myself a copy of these, so if you can just advance the slides for me and I'll just keep talking. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to let you know is that you'll recall a month or two ago, you approved a field trip for our students along with their German exchange visitors. The German exchange students arrived here over Memorial Day weekend, and so they've been with us for about 2 weeks. We got 2 wonderful shots here, one of them at Storrs Adventure Park, and the other on the top of Mount Washington. And anyone who knows Mount Washington should be just in awe of the beauty of that day. They had an amazing trip on their overnight to New Hampshire, and they've just been having a great time. And I've heard from the middle school what a wonderful group of students came from Germany, and just what a thrill it's been for our students to have this experience with them. Our students, of course, will be going to Germany next spring. This used to be a fall trip, and with COVID, for now, we've shifted it to the spring. I also wanted to remind you that each year, the students from Germany like an opportunity to say thank you to the board. Some years they've actually come to a board meeting. Sometimes we've held a breakfast. This year, what makes the most sense for schedules is to do an ice cream social. And so it will be held Monday, June 13th at 2 o'clock at the middle school. And we hope you will be able to join us for a little ice cream social. Are they on now? Thank you. The other thing I wanted to let you know happened this week. On Monday evening, we held a virtual information session for elementary parents to help them plan for the opening of school and to share with them the details we had for how we would be opening schools in our Plan B with pre-K, K, and 1 students at Vinton and grade 2, 3, and 4 students at Goodwin School. We had about 50 parents who attended the session. We did record it, and we have created an FAQ document that provides additional information that went out to parents this afternoon. And I've got the link for anybody who views this packet later to the website page that has both the recording of the session and the information sheet. I will say, given the number of people, I thought there were very few questions. More questions, as you would imagine, around the logistics, like transportation and childcare. We also had representatives from Mansfield Parks and Rec there so that they could talk about childcare, and we're continuing to work with the bus company to make sure we can manage childcare options in a way that works for families. Got some really good news on transportation. We had a chance, I think it was last week, we met with our router, and we were able to see all of the routes. There are no routes that will take longer than 45 minutes, which is the same amount of time that some of our routes take now. And they're pretty sure that almost all children, not everybody, but almost all children will stay on the same bus with the same driver when they move to the new school, which is really nice. So not only will children from the same family be on the same bus in the fall, even if they're in 2 schools, they will stay with that bus driver when they move to the new school. So very appreciative of M&J. They've really worked very hard to try to be as not just accommodating to parents, but really looking out for the best interest of children, and we're very appreciative of that.
Kelly, may I ask?
Sure.
Will that information be available to parents who have students in the middle school?
Which information?
That you both hear? That will be on our website?
It's on the website. I only sent the notice to the elementary parents. I don't know how much information in that flyer will be of interest to middle school, but we can certainly advertise it if you'd like. To
I
the
did
middle
have
school
one
families.
request by a middle school parent. I think just informational. So
Oh.
it goes on the website.
It's
that
on
would
the,
be-
it will be on the
that'd be
website.
fine.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I mentioned a fun time, lots of end-of-year activities with some great pictures here. Each of our elementary schools has returned to having an outdoor family gathering in the spring. Goodwin School this year called theirs the Fair Whale Bash. Vinton continued their tradition of Super Saturday, and this coming Saturday, Southeast will hold their Goodbye Southeast celebration. We also had returned, something we've done in the past, to the field day and cookout at MMS, and there are a couple of great pictures there of hamburgers and other foods being served and eaten outside. Our middle school band participated in the Memorial Day parade. I've heard rave reviews about their performance this year. And we also returned to the tradition of running the final mile of the marathon through our running clubs at E.O. Smith, which I think happened last Friday evening. So just some great pictures that I think really are reflective of both the child-centeredness of our communities, but also the opportunities that we provide to children and their families. So it's been a great spring. Also, for your information, I think this has been shared with you before, but I hope people listening at home will also make note of this as part of the Juneteenth celebration that the town of Mansfield will be sponsoring over the next week or so. The 8th grade students who participated in the Witness Stone Project, actually all 8th grade students participated in the Witness Stone Project, but our 8th graders are sort of ending their study of the enslaved individual from Mansfield that was the focus of the Witness Stone this year, a man by the name of Titus. They will install a stone that gives witness to Titus, a man for whom we know very little about because records for enslaved people are quite limited, but the students have learned quite a bit about him as well as the conditions in which enslaved individuals lived during that time. And you know that we've had several celebrations within the schools around the student work, and now they will be placing a stone on the lawn at the library. It will be there forever. It will be installed within the ground, and that ceremony will happen this coming Monday, June 13th at 4:45. Martha?
So this is the photo of the stone that's going to be at the library?
That's not the photo of the stone. The stone is, my understanding is it's kind of small, about 3 by 3, 4 by 4. I don't know if Candace knows, but it is actually inset into the ground, and it's really an engraving.
Okay, so what is that? That looks
That's
marble.
the poster.
Oh,
It's just a poster.
That
I'm
looks
sorry.
like marble.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I was just a little confused.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's going to be horizontal ground?
Yes.
Okay. Hope that it's taken care of, so we
Right.
can walk on it. Grass this approach.
The students met with the town council and I believe also with the zoning commission and went through quite a process, working first with our town manager to identify the best place for this stone. They were looking for a place, as you said, where it would be well cared for, but also would be visible to members of the community. And so there were a number of sites that they considered, and they did their homework. They ultimately met with the head librarian down at Mansfield Library to make sure that this was going to be an appropriate place for the stone.
Good. Now, I've done some work about the Mansfield Center Cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
and I understood, and I haven't pursued it, but that the unmarked part in the back, there are no stones, that I heard a couple times, that those are unmarked graves of enslaved people. I'm not sure, but it's something else.
It'd be interesting for
something
them to
can look
explore
into.
in the future. Yeah.
Because all the leaders of our original community, all the Stores and the Barrows and the Burnhams, they're all buried there. And then there's this huge swath where there are no stones. And so it's
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Edith? No. Okay. Okay. And the other exciting end of year activity, of course, is promotion. This is a photo from last evening. Southeast School had their promotion last evening, a beautiful ceremony outside. Students had an opportunity to share their thoughts and reflections. And we have 3 more coming up next week. Vinton and Goodwin on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Mansfield Middle School on Friday evening. And thus closes another school year. We'll mention a couple of other things that are happening.
I
but
just wanted to mention, I understand that all of these end-of-year events they're so important and also very emotional, and they take a lot of energy and thought and organization. And on top of that, like, there's all these students here from Germany. Like, that takes a huge amount of work and effort. So thank you all so much. Again, we're so grateful, I think, every year for these milestones, but also, again, for this year, it feels even more meaningful for many reasons. And I don't know how you guys are pulling off the German exchange thing right now. I have no idea.
There's a lot of comfort, I think, in getting back to some of the traditions and practices that we're used to and that were so missed over the last 2 years. And I think that's natural adrenaline that's keeping people going, right? I also wanted to mention, I don't have a slide for this, but I did want to mention that, I said in my intro that lots of celebrations, but lots of teaching and learning going on still as well. And I'm in the midst of my year-end conversations with administrators. They likewise are in the midst of their year-end evals with teachers. And I'm hearing, speaking of like remarkable things happening in challenging times, I'm hearing of some very remarkable things that have been happening in our schools this year. Not only does our teacher eval project now require teachers to engage in their own action research, and there are some wonderful projects there, but our equity work this year also challenged people to come up with their own equity actions. And the combination of those 2 projects, it's really been remarkable to hear how teachers are leading the work in schools and really making significant contributions to the experiences that children are having. I can't say enough about the quality of what happens in our schools. And one of your core beliefs, grow educators, it surely is playing out in what I'm hearing about. We also, uncharacteristically, but I guess or positively, we already have seen some very preliminary results of the state testing that was done. And so we're just starting to unpack that. But I will tell you that very early indications would suggest that while our performance may not be quite at the level that it was pre-pandemic, there's been some very good growth for students this year. And we're now digging in to see the effect of some of our interventions on students. And again, really early indicators are that our interventions have had a positive effect. So I know Peter and team will have a full report for you next year when they do the next deep learning report for you under that key driver. But I was pleased to see the scores and to know that the work of teachers is having a really positive effect. My report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now on to introduction of Mansfield Elementary School Assistant Principal.
Yes, we really didn't plan this, but I'm going to take an opportunity to introduce a very special person who's here this evening, and then I'm going to invite both the principal and assistant principal of MES to come forward so that they can each say a few words if they'd like. So it is my great pleasure to introduce to you all Rebecca Granatini. And Rebecca, if you and Lauren would like to come up to the table here. Rebecca is coming to us most recently from the Wethersfield Public Schools, where she is an instructional coach. Prior to that, Rebecca has been a teacher, including in Colchester, and I think one other place. I don't have your resume in front of me, I'm sorry. But we had just a remarkable series of interviews with Rebecca, and I'm sorry, I keep referring to you by your formal name, but I understand you go by Becky, so I'm gonna switch that now. I'm sorry, but we had a really set of remarkable interviews with Becky, and I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. In the first interview, one of our questions was, how do you achieve work-life balance given the demands of administrative positions? And what she said to us, I think this was when people really fell in love with you. What she said was, I got to be honest with you, I'm the sort of person who really loves that Friday evening phone call that says, we've got an emergency that needs to be taken care of. And I will tell you, right through the very final interview that Peter Dart and I did together with Becky, where she had an opportunity just to tell stories about her teaching experiences and some of the experiences that were the highlights of her career, we knew that we found somebody who thinks like others in Mansfield think, and somebody who will make significant contributions here in Mansfield. And we always hope that whenever we hire an administrator, that they're bringing something to us that we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to know about. And we expect to learn from Becky, but we also hope, Becky, that we'll be able to help you continue to grow as an educator. So welcome to Mansfield and to MES.
Welcome.
And Lauren, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you. Becky brings a warm smile, a kind heart, and has made a difference in so many children's lives. I had the opportunity to speak to the people that she listed as her references, and the comments are overwhelming. I think, as you know, as we build Mansfield Elementary School, a net zero school, some of the core of being an elementary school isn't going to go away. You know, we need a administration that's supportive to our staff. We need to be able to inspire them, and we need to be able to welcome our students as they come in each day, fresh, and give them our whole hearts. Becky adds to my belief and my teaming, and we're going to be able to do this together in a seamless partnership. And you may be wondering, what does this look like? We're going to be in 2 buildings. What's the plan? So I think I'm going to say it. We're looking forward to each having a week at each of the buildings. We are both committed to making sure that we know our students, we know our teachers, and we're going to be co-leading in each of the sites. So we look forward to getting to know one another even at a more deep level with the instructional practices, but I'm thrilled that Becky has chosen to come our way, and I know that we have a lot to gain from her. Welcome to the team.
I'm just thrilled to be here. I feel like I've won the lottery.
Excuse me, but we can't hear you.
Could you put the mic on, please? Thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. Well, thank you very, very much. We're super excited also. And you're right, it's going to be an adventure. I think we all understand that. And thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Lauren, I'm going to invite you to stay right there because the next item in our presentations is a presentation about the Mansfield Elementary School mascot. And I think I might have shared a little bit with you at one point about this, or perhaps Lauren did in one of our reports of progress presentations, but we invited third graders to help us define the mascot for the new school. And Lauren recently shared in an admin meeting the process that the children have gone through to go from concept to actual design. And I thought it was a fascinating process. And as we are celebrating moving into this new school and closing out this school year, I thought you'd like to hear about this.
I'm so excited to share it with you. Thank you for the opportunity. When you go to principal school, one of the things that they tell you is that you have to find a way to build some school culture. And having a strong school climate and school culture is really the core of administrative work. And one of the greater researchers talks about having a symbol, and the symbol being what you can rally around. And that is sort of the core belief of what started this work. As you know, the transition into a new building, anything that we could do to help people to start to think about what will it actually be like when you're inside of it became the focus of what we wanted to do to move forward. And early on, as you've heard me speak about, some simple moves, but moves that have been powerful. I would tell you that the building a mascot and determining a mascot has been one of the most powerful. Some of the teachers have referred it to, it's almost been like a project-based learning experience. So I'm going to enjoy this moment and share with you a little bit about this plan. I'll throw my... As I want to start, part of a plan is that we had an opportunity to bring our grade level teachers together to get to know one another, work closely together. We had 5 half-day sessions, and I've spoken with you about that, but this was an opportunity when we met with the third grade team and started thinking about what might we do? And we landed on this idea of let's work on the mascot. The third graders are going to be our 4th grade leaders next year. Let's give them a chance to work together and see what we could come up with. So in that first meeting, we were talking about what do we want students to think about when we think about having a mascot? What are those core traits? And while we weren't sure, we knew that the students would start to fill in the ideas. So we developed a project planner, made some timelines, and said goodbye to the teachers, and off they go into their individual classrooms. And as they went into those classrooms, they started thinking about, with their classes, what are these values that we're looking for? What do we want? What do we want? Small groups got together, and many mascots were identified with really awesome traits in each class. Then they decided to do the most difficult thing, which was pick one in each of these 6 classes. And somehow these teachers made this happen. They narrowed it down to the one choice. So that was goal 1, that each classroom out of the 6 would come up with a mascot. And then the second part would be that they would start working on what would the drawing be and go through a revision cycle and a process where they get feedback and then have this, their class drawing. And then after that was set, we had our 6 drawings with the 6 mascots, and they went to Flipgrid. Flipgrid is an app where students can video themselves and do wonderful, live renditions of what their speeches were, and they were passionate and they were interesting. And we moved forward from the 6 classes: potential fox, a moose, a chameleon, an ant, which is Kelly Lyman's favorite, the panda, and the tiger. And they were all convincing. There were so many great reasons that the students put up together. And once we had our 6 videos, we sent that out to all students in the school, including the 4th graders, even though they weren't going to be there. We were trying to engage them. So yeah, preschool through 4th grade, they listened to the videos, and then they made a determination for the school-wide vote. And that school-wide vote landed us in this beautiful image, which we then enjoy, and a lot of hard work went into, and a lot of thinking went into that. And what we realized is that we're going to need to find a way to make this digital. and still capture everything that that tiger has. That tiger is strong, but he's calm. He's courageous. He himself is passionate, and this is what the students had told me. So as we have a person that knows someone who's a graphic designer and does these logos in schools in this area. So we worked with a woman named Laura Tedeschi, and we had this opportunity with Laura to start thinking about how are we going to build this out. The goals were, let's have students maybe learn about graphic design. Maybe one day they're going to want to take, this path down their road. But there also was this other piece that, don't forget, I'm building one school community, but I have 6 classes who had their favorite mascot. So that isn't great, So we started thinking about how do we make sure everyone has this opportunity to feel like they're behind this one mascot that was selected. And by the way, that vote was within 3. It was super close. So there were, every mascot had a tremendous amount of votes, but it was really a tight one. So in any case, this graphic designer was so perfect because she loves kids and she wanted to work with kids. So, that was the beginning here. She started researching and identified this image of a tiger and felt that this tiger was the closest to the initial rendering of the one that the student had drawn. And then from there, she started to think about what tiger graphically would most closely represent. So she was doing this work on her own. But she came back to explain this process and what she went through with our students. So I'm walking you through her presentation and her explanation. She had a few touch points with the students, and I did along the process. But I'm going to show you some of what she was involved in talking with them about. So, was there a tiger here that really captured what she was looking for and what the students, said that they wanted? And she landed on designing this tiger. Could see the soulful eyes, a strength, but not a fierceness, the way that you sometimes think of the teeth in the tiger. The children didn't want that. They wanted an approachable tiger, one that you could maybe rub his head. And then she took this very simple part. This is the bottom of the drawing. You could see a scroll here of Mansfield Elementary School, and she tried to figure out, how do I display that? Which kind of a banner do I want? How do I want the students, the words, how's it going to come out? So she played with that. Then she landed in looking really closely at these students. She was so intrigued. Who are these kids? What do they have on? So she ended up kind of putting these kids together and played around with the design that had that, and then said, I don't think I nailed it. The other kids didn't have faces. So then she went to this version, which more closely represents the initial image and what the students wanted. And then we started thinking about, there's this world. What kind of a world do we want it to look like? Is it more of a realistic world, or does it have is it more cartoony, or is it really a balance between the two and one you could just kind of imagine? So, these are all the things. And as you look back, I think you could see it makes you look a little more deeply into this picture and look at that scroll and see the world that's behind that tiger. And, she embraced this. So then she comes back and says, I don't know, is it an oval or is it a circle? I can't quite tell. So she presented, some options for the students. And the final thing, before we got to the student feedback part, how do we want to showcase the word tigers? Are we sticking with the Mansfield colors? Are we bringing in a little orange piece here? Is it bold type, or is it close? These are all the things that a graphic designer is going to make a determination on. And in the end, she brought forth these 6 designs. And I had the pleasure of, I shared them with the class early on a Monday. They had a week to look at each of these designs, talk about it with partners, put Post-it notes on them, and identify what is it about, which one do they like. Well, the third graders didn't want to pick one. They felt strongly that there were individual features in each of these, and they became quite passionate about their feelings about which one. For example, middle top, there were concerns that the children were going to fall off the world. They didn't want that. So it felt like when you look at the top right, they felt a little bit better about there being somehow an enclosure over the kids. But then there was a question of, does it feel a little like a cage that they're in, because there's a line on both sides, right? So, and then that question about, do we want a round tiger emblem, or are we looking for something more oval? Well, in the end, a few features from each of these became the feedback that we gave back to Laura, and I met with her to share what really was it. And I can tell you that the oval was not the clear winner. I don't know. What do you think? Like the oval? What about that tiger in the top left? Right, does that capture really what was drawn? No, the kids didn't quite like that, but they did. There were people who said they could see that on a T-shirt, that kind of a tiger. So anyway, so here we go. So this is where we landed. After various pieces back and forth with the students, I have 4 different versions of the Mansfield Tiger logo that was mostly accepted by the third graders. They continued to want to give feedback, and Laura was open to it, but we needed to end the school year. So we decided that here's one rendition, which we think is probably going to be the most common version of it, but there's other versions. Obviously, we need a black, white, and gray version that could be reprinted. This is the one that most closely represents the initial drawing, where I'm envisioning this on a beautiful flag, and you'll see that showcased. And then, so now this opportunity to build a school around a tiger, it's taken shape. And we have had, since we selected this mascot, we have on the left, this is a pennant. The third graders got together for a student meet and greet and had an opportunity to get to know students that they're going to be with next year. It was fascinating and wonderful. And the teachers had decided, let's have them create pennants that can be in the entryway of their school when they come in, of our 2 schools. So they spent the part of the third grade meet and greet designing pieces of what that pennant will look like. And when you walk into the school, you're going to see, a lot of excitement over tigers. When you look at the little girl in the middle, Peter doesn't like this because I stole the picture from the Whale Bash. But at the Whale Bash, I had attended just, in an effort to try to build up some relationships with families. I saw little tigers running around, and I couldn't help but take their picture and just tell them how beautiful they looked as they were, I even had a PTO parent who volunteered for our new PTO, decked out in the tiger. She's ready to go. And then here on the right, you're looking at a kindergartner. During their meet and greet, they had an opportunity with these little tiger hats that they colored in, and all sorts of fun memories for them and these opportunities to get together. Tomorrow's our next time for our second graders. It's the last of the student meet and greets for them to have an opportunity to get to know each other. And I just want to share, this has been some of the most fun I've ever had as an administrator. I love the moments to create a school. You would never think in your life, usually you come into an established school, but I can tell you it's just been the greatest. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for paying attention to something so small but so meaningful for our school.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was excellent. Thank you.
Lauren, I just want to say that the fun you had was reflected in this. This was probably the most fun presentation we've ever had.
And I would like to request that we're forwarded that sweatshirt order form when it becomes available.
I'm sorry, I should have taken questions. Any questions?
No, just thank you so much. Thank you for that
Thank you.
work. Next is the MMS roof project update.
Yeah, so from fun to.
Yeah, do you have to do this?
But thanks, Lauren. I just was so warmed. My heart was so warmed when Lauren shared this experience. I thought you'd love to hear the story. I know it's a little different than what we typically do at a board meeting. So MMS roof update. The roof committee met earlier this week. We are awaiting a date for the installation of the solar panels. It appears it will happen in July. And we're hopeful that they will be operational by the time students return. So that was good news. And then I'm going to keep moving on to the school project. So these are pictures that were shared with us today. You know, every 2 weeks, not only does the school building committee meet, but the construction team, architects and owners all meet as well. Those meetings have grown to 2 to 2.5 hours every other Thursday, but we're getting a tremendous amount of information. And while it may not look it as you drive by, there's a tremendous amount of work going on inside. So I thought you'd like to see some of these. In the top left there, that's an actual classroom, obviously, with some of the cabinetry beginning to be installed. So the portion of the building that is the furthest along, this is what's happening in all of the classrooms. So you can see drywall's up, there's an initial coat of paint, or maybe that's the final paint, I'm not even sure, and the millwork is beginning. This will be followed by floors and ceilings, and classrooms will be complete. So that's pretty exciting to see. On the bottom left, that is a hallway in the kindergarten and preschool wing. That wing is a little bit further, not as far along as the grade 1, 2, and 3, 4 wing. And yet even that wing, all of the drywall is up. And so we have classrooms now in that whole wing. I was in the building about a month ago, and studs were just going up. So good to see that. And then this big photo, it's a great photo. They are painting the trusses, hand painting every one of those trusses in the gymnasium. That's a finished ceiling that's already been put up. It was a material that came finished. And there's a tremendous amount of work going on in the gymnasium with the electrical and with the steel, especially the steel that will be the post for the indoor ropes course. So very exciting to see that, because this is the part of the building that is the least far along. So really important to see this. We also heard today that the roof is almost 100% complete. They had an inch of rain, they said this morning, and they walked the building and found very few leaks. And the leaks were places where the flashing hadn't been completed yet, so it wasn't surprising. So that means that the building is almost not quite weather tight, because that involves windows, but at least every part of the building now has a working roof over it. These are some exterior shots. These are also not visible by the road. This is the back side of the building. You can see the material, that large photo on the right. That's the zinc exterior material. It's a really beautiful material that takes no maintenance, really. And so we're really glad to have a school with this kind of a natural material that will wear on its own. On the left-hand side, you see two different views of the same part of the building, that back side, where windows have already been installed. And so, yes, there are parts of the building that are weather tight. In fact, they could not be putting those cabinets in if the building was not weather tight. And they're ready to do windows on the part of the building I showed you that has the drywall up. That's the next part of the building that's going to get windows. So it's pretty exciting. And then there's site work going on as well. The photo on the right is actually the Ipe wood, another natural product that requires no maintenance, that will be installed on the front of the building, and they're preparing it for installation. You can see big pallets of it there, and a man that is doing some hand work on every slab of it to get it ready for installation. We learned today about what that installation will entail. And it should be within 2 weeks, they should be starting to install the Ipe wood. And on the right-hand side, doesn't look like much, but it's pretty exciting because all the electrical conduits are in what will be the bus loop and the sidewalks, and they're getting ready to I guess not maybe pour the sidewalks, but they're doing all of the groundwork to prepare for installation of the sidewalks. That's very encouraging because, as you can imagine, that's the part of the site work that waits till closer till the end. So we still do not have a confirmed, well, I have to be careful how I say this. There is a schedule with a substantial completion date that has been shared with us, but we do not have a confirmed date that we feel we can share with the public about when we'll be moving in, because there are still a couple of things that we want to make sure we hit the time targets that have been developed to ensure that before we start to announce a move-in date, we need to be sure that there's nothing that's going to interrupt that move-in date. But it appears right now that construction will be substantially completed by the end of October.
Any questions? Martha?
Will the board or the town incur extra expenses this having to move into 2 different schools for a while? How's that going to be handled?
So all of it gets billed to the project. And so remember, through the referendum, there's a budget for the project. The construction of the school came in more than $1 million. Now, I'm not sure that's the right figure. A lot of money under budget. It was more than $1 million. It was quite a bit under budget. And we receive, as part of the school building committee, we receive regular updates on any increased expenses. Every increased expense has to be voted on. We are still well below the project cost for this building. So while there may be some additional costs for moving, they will not be costs that will come out of any operating budget or anything beyond what's already been budgeted for the project.
So moving into 2, back into 1, plus staffing, busing, that is not going to fall on our budget.
No additional costs for transportation. Very minimal additional cost for budget for staffing. At this point, I think the only staffing cost would be a part-time nurse. So that right now is coming out of the operating budget. And the moving costs themselves come out of the project budget. So correct, the town and the board out of our budgets will not incur any additional costs for that. But it's important to know the transportation, there's no increase in transportation.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Catherine.
Thank you. Kelly, if there's any, when you say coming out under budget, if there is any money left over, is the goal to spend it, or is there some other way it's going to be used?
So ultimately, that becomes the decision of the town and the building committee. At this point, I'm not aware of any needs for the building beyond what's in the project scope. So you'll have to see where you are at end of project, but I would suspect that there will be some remaining funds, and then again, the town and the building committee will decide what to do with those funds.
Can they be put towards the debt?
I'm afraid that's a question I don't know the answer to.
Okay, thank you.
But we can check with finance on that.
Okay, thank you.
April?
Is there a chance that the board will be able to go in and see the school before it opens?
Possibly. We
Trying.
Yeah, we have been trying. We have to be careful how many of you go at once so that it doesn't constitute a meeting. Yeah. But I think that's something that we could probably have some more conversation with the construction managers about if there's some interest. Can do some follow-up.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Kelly. So last week we had an opportunity to celebrate your retirement, and it was a wonderful night, a great time to meet your family. But there are some members that would like to say a few words tonight, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Martha, would you like to go first?
Sure. So we'll have a conversation over the boardroom table. So for fellow board members and staff members, this is to Superintendent Lyman. When you began working with our system, we were running on reputation, and our reserve tank was on the low side. Our suppressed structure was crumbling. We didn't know how badly until we learned what distinct components needed to be put into place. Assessing the lay of the land, you started at the ground level, tending to our budding garden of learners every day. As our master gardener, you rigorously cleared the land, ripping out weeds and dead wood, planning and planting, thereby designing a purposeful array of unprecedented options that enable all of our learners to thrive in sunshine. Gardens always need tending and improving. In constant flux, the work is never done. But over time, the aesthetic results are inspiring and encouraging. From a volunteer stand of apparent wildflowers whose blossoms sublimely splash splendidly colorful dashes, to orchestrating the design of more formal landscapes that present structure and become the transformational foundation for future. This blend always engages one's imagination. So best wishes to you, Capability Lyman. Keep clearing the land.
Thank you.
Susanna? Anyone else want to? Okay, April? April, I'm sorry.
I really wish that I had more time to work with you, because even at my orientation, you were so helpful. And I'm sorry, I'm sensitive. You were really helpful, and you really encouraged me to join the board, even though I had no experience and I don't have children in the school. But you really encouraged me, and I appreciate the books that you gave me. I passed them on to a teacher in the family, and she appreciates that. So I wish you good luck with everything, and I am excited to work with Peter, and you've obviously left us all in good hands, but I wish that we had had a little bit more time to work together. So congratulations.
Thank you. The administrators had a good time ribbing me about all the books, so.
Dave?
I'm sorry I missed your retirement dinner last week. My mobility is a bit limited lately, getting better, but I couldn't make it. So I'm not sure how much I can think to say they haven't already said before. You know, your leadership, your organization, your care, your concern, the way you've handled everything through COVID, giving us this beautiful new elementary school, updating the middle school. I think I can go on and on, but basically, we're going to miss you when you're gone. And I'm sorry to see you leave, but I'm happy that you're doing right by yourself. So
Thank you.
Good luck in everything.
Thank you, Dave. Catherine?
Yes, I am very sorry that I missed your farewell last week, but it was really stiff competition, and I'm afraid that my cute little granddaughter who turned one won out, and we were in Maine. Otherwise, I would have tried to get to both functions. I just want to say that I'm going to really miss, personally, miss how well you translate what I'm trying to say. And I hope you give Peter some lessons on the side for me. And you will be sorely missed. I mean, the improvements are incredible. The children of Mansfield are just so incredibly lucky. And I hope that your work does continue through Peter. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Catherine.
Catherine.
You'll be missed.
Susanna?
I'm just going to say a couple pieces, but it's difficult. There's really no way to replicate. I mean, everyone has said such wonderful things, but I think actually what we put together a little bit was some pieces around your words reflected back to you. So as we just thought about a brief I thought about a brief board thank you. We found ourselves back to our portrait of the graduate, which has just really centered all of your work with Mansfield Public Schools. And so we returned to the portrait in light of your retirement. We just realized how much you daily model these values and this vision for our board, our district leadership, all our staff, our students, and their families. So we thought it would be helpful to reread in this context. Led by our superintendent, the entire Mansfield Public School community develops a love of learning rooted in a strong academic foundation. Students, staff, families, administrators, board members all grow within a safe and respectful environment while contributing to the local and global community. This educational journey encourages and has encouraged our risk-taking, has built perseverance and resiliency, and celebrated individual growth. Our superintendent has supported the development of our skills and dispositions across the 5 elements that interact with each other to build and enrich our learning community, leaving us very well prepared to face our future learning challenges. So while we could spend the rest of the evening and deep into the night sharing examples of your vision and your leadership, we just picked a couple related to our relationship with you and related to the 5 C's. So just briefly, collaboration, this, as Martha referred to, has been a theme from our very first meeting with you. You talked about our work together as a partnership. We just recall that from our very first time that we met you. But you have continuously engaged in with our board, with our evolving board, to develop our goals together. And you've supported us in our professional development. You've listened to and responded to our diverse priorities and perspectives. You've met with every new board member to orient them, make them feel comfortable, and above all, develop relationships with all of us. You are absolutely a citizen of the world. You recognize your role and responsibility in the larger world. I just went through all these bullet points and I was like, oh my gosh, these are all so relevant. We are so fortunate that your leadership is rooted here in Mansfield, but you are truly a citizen of Connecticut. We're so proud of the leadership work that you've done across the state, and especially during the pandemic. And also for this C, we just also thought we'd talk about all the reverberations of your leadership and innovation here in our district. But again, also the impact that you've had across the state through teaching in the UConn leadership programs throughout your superintendency. I have no idea how you did that. And the work that you've done to support educational leaders all the way across the world in Jordan. So you just absolutely embody the bullet of this C, of the sound decision-making that considers the effect on many. When you think about the impact that you've had on educators and our students, think about how many people, how many students that has over your career. It's just tremendous. Just communication, your regular communication with us is clear, consistent, proactive. You've kept us informed. You share celebrations and challenges. You're a wonderful writer. It's just amazing. You put so much thought into small communication, and whether it's a simple message or a difficult message, you address all the issues that we face so well. Creativity, you've had to be creative in just ways that I'm sure you may have anticipated, in so many ways that you didn't. You've just been so incredibly flexible when solving problems, probably developed more resilience through many challenges that have required an incredible amount of perseverance. These last 2.5 years have just been remarkable, but you've worked with all of us to develop creative solutions and responses and supports, and our new MES is just innovation embodied. I think, it's also just from our presentations this evening, we know how open you are to new ideas from national, thinkers and research, but also from our students and our staff, and that's just been absolutely inspirational. And then finally, critical thinking. You are just always revising and revisiting. You don't ever rest on our laurels. I think Martha mentioned that too. You've approached the superintendency with a complete growth mindset, and that's why we've all grown. Our whole community. You don't avoid difficult issues that we're facing, but lead us to tackle them system-wide, and you respond to the challenges and just never lose the forest for the trees. We just cannot thank you enough for how you've supported us and our community and helped us be a place to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. that means so much to me that you went back to the portrait of the graduate. When you lead people in work, you hope that the work takes hold and that it becomes known and understood and frankly continues beyond you. And the fact that you chose the portrait of the graduate, I never would have thought of that. And I'm so appreciative of those words and to know, again, just to know that the portrait means so much to all of you and that you think that way, that in and of itself is a wonderful gift. And thank you very much
It's a
for
gift
doing
to us.
that.
It's how we do things here now.
Right.
Thanks to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, that was on behalf of all of us.
Anyone else? I'm not sure I can do this, but everything she said, yeah, thank you. I
You're welcome.
can't do it.
No, you should keep
I can't do it. Can't do it.
Oh, I'll do it. This is my subbing in. Tonight, I'm sad and happy. Sad, Kelly, that we are losing you, but happy that we have had 8 years of your leadership. Years that saw you and your leadership team guide our district with vision and a quest for excellence. A district that now has the ideals of equity, inclusion, and diversity and kindness deeply embedded in all that we do. I am happy, too, for you to move on to new challenges, happy in the knowledge of your good work, how it will now impact many, many other children. I'm sad that we are losing a truly outstanding educator, but happy that we as a board had the opportunity to work with a truly outstanding educator. So happy trails, my friend. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. So, at the risk of repeating myself, because much of what I'd like to share with you, I shared last week. First off, thank you all very much for what you did for me last week. That was really an amazing send-off, and it's a funny feeling when your children come to your work and then to hear about you, or family members. Like my brother-in-law said, I had no idea you did these things. You're going to have to tell me about this. So thank you I very much for everything that you did last week. It was incredibly special, and I've kind of been riding a high ever since. I said then, and I'll just repeat, that when you apply for a position as a superintendent, you know that you're going from a position all your life where you've had usually one boss to having a board of bosses, a collection of bosses. And one of the things that you hope for is that there's a match and that you find a way to work together, and what's important to you becomes important to them, and what's important to them becomes important to you. It has to be a collaborative. And I felt a connection. Susanna, I still remember my second interview with the board, and I closed my remarks by saying that I know, and I teach this to aspiring administrators, that it's not always about what you know that gets you a job, it's about the match that you make with the organization, the district that you're interviewing or seeking a job with. And I said, you have to feel that it's a match, and I feel that here. And Susanna started shaking her head. I was like, oh, maybe that's a good sign. So I've just been thrilled to work with this board. Trust me, there are so many communities across the state and across our nation that are just stuck, and not only stuck, worse than that are fighting among themselves and fighting with their communities, and they're not able to get anything done, and there is no focus on teaching and learning. And some of my best colleagues are experiencing that in places that you never would have expected that from. And we don't have that here, and I think we don't have that here in large part because of all of you. We've shown the community what it means to work together. We're strong in our beliefs. We're not afraid to share those beliefs, and we've built really good relationships with our community. And certainly the administrators and staff have had a lot to do with that, but so has the board. It all comes back to how the board operates and the model that the board sets for the community. And so I've been incredibly blessed to have all of you as my bosses. And I also want to give recognition to those board members that were here when I was hired and are no longer with us, because that got us started. But thankfully, every person who has replaced a board member in my time here has fit right in and just continued the work. And I say that all the time when I share our work with people, that, you know, we're able to do this because we have a board who understands, a board who's willing to learn in order to make good decisions. And I can't thank you enough for all of that. This, as you know, is not work any one person does. So thank you very much. I will always keep you all in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's kind of hard to believe this is really it.
That makes two of us. Okay, now let's get back to, we have no new business. Second hearing for visitors. Is there anyone who would like to approach the board? We don't have a consent agenda. Any suggestions for future agenda items?
I unfortunately have one that I don't want to share after all that, because I'd rather end on that note. But in the fall, I would love if we could have a meeting again, like we've had in the past with the police in town, to go over safety features for the new building. I just would feel more comfortable when being asked. I mean, I know we have a basis, but being asked questions, I would just rather have a refresher on that, so I can have confidence with my own voice, with knowing we're taking all precautions.
That's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Any other suggestions? Okay, then I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Edith. Second, thank you, April.